Nigeria is the kind of country that many people have heard of, but almost no one really knows. It is a huge, diverse place, full of contrasts that are difficult to fit into a single box. The country is a melting pot of stories, innovations, and contradictions that defy any stereotype. Want an example? How about being buried in a BMW instead of a coffin? Yes, that happens here. Today, Bello Mundo will take you on a tour of one of the most populous, vibrant, and influential countries in Africa. Number 1. Location and general information. Nigeria is located right in the heart of West Africa. On one side, it borders Benin. On the other, Niger, Chad, and Cameroon. And down south, it has more than 800 kilometers of coastline bathed by the Atlantic Ocean in the famous Gulf of Guinea. With almost 924,000 square kilometers, this nation is huge. And it's not just its size that impresses, it's its diversity. It has rainforests, savannas, mangroves, and even a semi-arid region in the north where it hardly ever rains. The country is crossed by the famous Niger River, and it's not just any river. It is the third largest in Africa. It crosses Nigeria from end to end, and halfway along its course meets the Benue River, forming a giant Y that divides the country into 3 large regions. It was because of this river that the colonizers named the country Nigeria. In the southeast of the country lies the Niger Delta, one of the largest wetlands in the world and an ecosystem of immense biodiversity. It is there that the river opens into hundreds of channels before flowing into the Atlantic, a region as rich in life as it is in natural resources, especially oil. The climate varies greatly from one end to the other. In the south, it rains so much that it reaches more than 4,000 millimeters per year. In the north, the climate is dry, the heat is intense, and drought is a reality. Lagos, located on the coast, is the largest city in the country. It is a megalopolis with more than 20 million people, but the actual capital is Abuja, a planned city built in the center of the country to try to balance the struggle between the regions. And there is a curious detail. In the middle of this tropical land, there is a place called the Jos Plateau. It is over 1,200 meters above sea level, has a mild climate, and even has strawberry plantations. Yes, strawberries. In the middle of Nigeria. Something that few would associate with tropical Africa. Number 2. History. Nigeria's history begins long before colonization. Much earlier, in fact. Over 2,000 years ago, the region was already inhabited by peoples such as the Nok, known for their terracotta sculptures. These are hand-carved clay pieces with such detailed expressions that they still amaze archaeologists today. They are one of the oldest examples of art in sub-Saharan Africa. Over time, different civilizations emerged there, each occupying a part of what is now Nigerian territory. In the southwest, the Yoruba formed strong kingdoms with their own language, traditional religion, and complex political structures. Cities such as Ife, considered sacred, and Oyo, capital of a regional empire, are part of this heritage that lives on today. In the southeast, the highlight was the Kingdom of Benin, famous for its bronze sculptures and for maintaining trade relations with the Portuguese since the 15th century. In the north, cities such as Kano and Katsina served as centers of trade and Islamic culture. It was there that the Sokoto Caliphate emerged in the 19th century, a union of Muslim states that became a regional power. Even with all this diversity, the British arrived and imposed their own logic. Gradually, they took control and, in 1914, they brought it all together into one country, Nigeria. The name, incidentally, was invented by a British journalist named Flora Shaw, inspired by the Niger River, as we mentioned at the beginning. Independence came on October 1st, 1960. But the road since then has not been easy. The country has faced military coups, a bloody civil war, and, more recently, extremism from Boko Haram, an armed group that opposes education and tries to impose a radical religious view, mainly in the northeast. Still, Nigeria moves forward, trying to balance very different cultures, beliefs, languages, and interests within the same territory. And despite all the challenges, the country remains one of the most influential and vibrant on the African continent. Number 3. Population. Now that you've seen a little of Nigeria's history, it's time to learn about what makes this country truly special: its people. Nigeria is not only the most populous country in Africa, it is a true global demographic powerhouse. Today, more than 220 million people live there, making it the 7th most populous nation on the planet. But projections indicate that by the year 2050, Nigeria could surpass even the United States, reaching close to 400 million inhabitants. But the most interesting thing is not just the numbers, it is the incredible diversity of this population. There are more than 250 ethnic groups living in a single territory, each with its own language, customs, and traditions. The largest groups are the Hausa and Fulani in the north, the Yoruba in the southwest, and the Igbo, also known as the Igbo, in the southeast. In addition to these, there are dozens of other peoples scattered throughout the country. This mixture is also reflected in the language. Although English is the official language, a legacy of the colonial period, it is estimated that there are more than 500 different languages spoken in Nigeria. Some, such as Hausa, Yoruba, and Igbo, are spoken by millions of people. Others are spoken by only a few hundred. In large cities, a kind of common language has emerged called Pidgin English, a simplified English full of slang and local expressions. Phrases such as "how you day," meaning "how are you," or "ino sabi," meaning "I don't know," are part of this dialect that mixes English with local expressions. Another curious fact: about 70% of the population is under 30 years old. This explains the contagious energy you feel in places like Lagos, a city that has grown so much that it has become a megalopolis. There is no shortage of movement. Technology, fashion, music, and creativity are everywhere. Number 4. Culture. If there is one area where Nigeria shines effortlessly, it is culture. Music, literature, cinema, fashion. Everything there pulsates with creativity and global impact. In music, the highlight begins with Fela Kuti, creator of Afrobeat, a style that mixes African rhythms with jazz and funk, always with political lyrics. Today, this foundation has evolved into modern Afrobeats, which dominate the charts. Artists such as Burna Boy, Wizkid, Davido, and Tiwa Savage are among the biggest names in global pop music. They sing with Beyoncé, tour Europe, and draw huge crowds. In literature, Nigeria has given the world Chinua Achebe and Wole Soyinka, the latter being the first African to win the Nobel Prize in Literature. And then there's Nollywood, the Nigerian film industry, an incredible cultural phenomenon. Starting modestly in the 90s with basic equipment and minimal budgets, Nollywood has grown to become the second largest film industry in the world in terms of number of productions. The films, full of drama, comedy, and religiosity, are popular throughout Africa and among African communities around the world. A true phenomenon. Number 5. Traditions and customs. Nigeria is a treasure trove of traditions and customs that reflect the extraordinary diversity of its people. Each ethnic group brings with it a universe of cultural practices, rituals, and celebrations that form an impressive cultural mosaic. Among the Yoruba in the southwest, festivals are a spectacle in themselves. The most famous is the Osun festival in Osogbo, which brings together thousands of devotees dressed in white to celebrate the goddess of water and fertility. They walk to the sacred grove, make offerings, and everything is accompanied by music, dancing, and ceremonies conducted by priestesses in trance. In the north, where the majority of the population is Muslim, the highlight is the Durbar festival. During Eid al-Fitr, horsemen parade in vibrant costumes on decorated horses, paying homage to local emirs. It is a tradition that blends faith, history, and regional pride. In the southeast, among the Igbo people, the New Yam Festival marks the beginning of the harvest of the main local food. But no one touches the new yams before the ceremony to thank the ancestors. Only then do the music, dancing, and feasting begin. Across the country, the tradition of storytelling remains strong. Griots, oral storytellers, are guardians of cultural memory, and today also tell their stories on the internet, radio, and TV. The stories also remain alive. Griots, traditional storytellers, continue to pass on legends and oral wisdom, now not only in town squares, but also on the radio, television, and social media. Even in markets, tradition and coexistence go hand in hand. In cities such as Kano or Ibadan, bargaining is not just about talking about prices, it is about building relationships. Bargaining becomes a ritual. And all of this is still reflected in family models, where it is common for uncles, aunts, and neighbors to take care of each other's children, a true collective parenting system. This system creates strong social support networks and demonstrates the African proverb, "It takes a village to raise a child." But if there is one tradition that really surprises outsiders, it is funerals. It is no exaggeration to say that in some regions, saying goodbye to someone can be more luxurious than many weddings. Number 6. Luxury funerals. In Nigeria, even the time of farewell can be marked by tradition, celebration, and in some cases, great luxury. The way a funeral takes place there depends largely on the religion, region, and culture of the family involved. Most Nigerians are Christian or Muslim. Both religions have different rituals, but they share a common belief that the soul of the deceased embarks on a new journey. In many cases, reincarnation is also believed, especially among Christians in the South, and that a person can return to Earth as the grandchild or nephew of someone in the family. At Christian funerals, it is common to see celebrations with music, dancing, colorful clothes, and plenty of food. Sacrificing animals such as goats or chickens to feed the guests is also part of many ceremonies, especially in rural areas. Muslims, on the other hand, usually bury the body as quickly as possible, always facing Mecca, following Islamic traditions. But perhaps what most catches the attention of outsiders are the luxury funerals. In some regions, some families believe that a person should take with them to the afterlife the same comforts they had in life. And they take this seriously. In 2018, for example, a businessman buried his father in a BMW valued at over $100,000. The car was lowered into the grave as if it were a luxury coffin. But he wasn't the only one. And in 2014, another funeral made international news. The body was buried inside a brand new Hummer, along with more than $10,000. Some Nigerians, on the other hand, bury people according to their gender. Men are buried facing east so they can see the sunrise, while women are buried facing west so they can see the sunset and prepare dinner for their husbands in the next life. Between beliefs, symbols, and exaggerations, funerals in Nigeria are anything but ordinary. Number 7. Gastronomy. It's time for the tastiest part of this trip, the food. And when it comes to cuisine, Nigeria puts on a show. The most famous dish is jollof rice, red rice cooked with tomatoes, peppers, and strong spices. It is so popular that it has become a source of dispute between West African countries such as Ghana and Senegal. Each one swears that they make the best version. But Nigerian jollof stands out for its smoky flavor and that spicy touch that does not go unnoticed. Another classic is fufu, an elastic dough made from yams, cassava, or plantains. It accompanies stews, which are called soups there, even though they are not soups as we know them. And you have to eat it with your hands. Make a ball with the fufu, squeeze it with your finger, and use it as a natural spoon. And these soups are an attraction in themselves. There is egusi soup with ground melon seeds, green leaves, and meat or fish. Efo riro, typical of the Yoruba people, contains African spinach and a fermented spice called locust bean. And in the Niger Delta, the favorite is banga soup, made with palm pulp and a slightly sweet flavor. On the streets, street food is part of the routine. The most famous are suya, meat skewers covered with ground peanuts and spices, akara, fried black-eyed pea fritters, and puff-puff, a sweet dough similar to donuts. There are also bitter soups, such as oha soup, which, in addition to their distinctive flavor, are valued for their medicinal properties. And when it comes to drinks, there is no shortage of local options. Zobo, made from hibiscus, kunu, made from cereals, and fura da nono, with sour yogurt. In the alcoholic category, palm wine, fermented sap extracted from palm trees, plays an important role in traditional ceremonies, especially weddings. Number 8. Challenges and overcoming them. Like any large and diverse country, Nigeria has its own challenges. One of them is religious balance. In the north, the majority of the population is Muslim. In the south, Christianity predominates, and there are still many communities that follow traditional African religions. With such diversity, occasional tensions arise, especially when political issues mix with faith. Another problem is the environment. In the Niger Delta, for example, decades of oil extraction have left deep scars, oil spills, contaminated rivers, and communities that have lived with pollution for generations. Local movements there have been demanding environmental justice and compensation from large companies. Security is also a concern in some regions, especially in the northeast, where armed groups have caused destruction and displacement. But it is important to note that these areas are localized. Most of the country remains vibrant, active, and welcoming. In the social sphere, there is still much progress to be made. Quality education and access to healthcare are not available to everyone equally. In rural areas, services are limited, but important projects are emerging, from NGOs that create mobile schools to startups that bring solar energy and medical consultations via apps. And that is where Nigeria's great advantage lies. Its people. Creative, determined, full of energy. Amidst the difficulties, homemade solutions, innovative businesses, and ideas that spread throughout Africa are emerging. With a predominantly young population full of talent and ambition, Nigeria has everything it needs to grow even more. And despite the negative headlines that sometimes appear, you only need to look closer to see a country that is pulsating, reinventing itself, and continuing to write its own history. The Nigerian way, with strength, rhythm, and a lot of creativity. So, which of these facts about Nigeria surprised you the most? Was it the size of the population, the ancient empires, the spicy food, or the funerals with luxury cars. If you enjoyed this dive into the culture, history, and contrasts of this African giant, take the opportunity to like and subscribe to the channel. This helps us continue to bring you content like this, full of stories that don't make the headlines but reveal the real world. Turn on the bell so you don't miss the next episodes of our Bello Mundo. We still have a lot of traveling ahead of us. Thank you very much for joining us, and see you next time.